Hey everyone, welcome back. Today we're diving into some heavy stuff, but really important stuff. Mental and social health.
Yeah,
It's like, you know how a house needs a solid foundation?
right.
Well, think of your mental and social well-being as that foundation. What happens when, the foundation starts to crack?
Oh, yeah. Important question.
That's what we're going to be exploring today, and how to reinforce that base.
Good stuff.
Our main source is a mental and social health wake-up call,
Okay.
which draws on the work of Dr. Sivani Saravanamuttu.
Mm-hmm.
She's written a whole trilogy on the digital age's impact on, our minds and stuff.
Interesting.
And her insights are, well, let's just say, pretty eye-opening.
I bet.
We'll be uncovering some surprising connections.
Okay.
Like, for instance, did you know there's a link between childhood trauma
Hmm.
and physical illness like 50 years down the line?
Wow, that's a long time.
Yeah, so we're going to be exploring all of that.
Yeah.
Our goal today isn't to bum you out, but to kind of equip you with the knowledge to take care of your own mental and social house.
Yeah, I like that. Your mental house.
Yeah, exactly. And better understand, what might be going on in the lives of others. So, ready to start laying some bricks.
Absolutely. It's fascinating how we often kind of like compartmentalize different aspects of health
Mm-hmm.
when in reality they're all like super deeply intertwined.
So true. And, let's kick things off with something I think we can all relate to.
Okay.
Sleep, or the lack thereof.
Ugh, yeah.
Our source highlights a study that found millennials, who are like heavy social media users,
Mm-hmm.
are 24% more likely to feel tired and struggle to concentrate because of poor sleep.
Wow, that's a lot.
I've definitely been there. That mid-afternoon slump can hit hard.
Oh, tell me about it. And it's not just about feeling groggy either.
Right.
Poor sleep can cascade into a whole bunch of problems impacting both your physical and your mental health.
It's definitely not just a minor inconvenience.
Not at all.
So help us connect the dots. What's the link between, scrolling through social media late at night and waking up feeling like a zombie?
Well, the source kind of points to loneliness as a major factor.
Goodness.
Yeah. When you feel isolated, it triggers your body's stress response,
Oh, okay.
which makes it harder to relax and get that, good quality sleep you need. It's almost like your body's on high alert, even though there's no, like, real danger.
That makes sense. But here's the thing.
Yeah.
Aren't we supposed to be, like, more connected than ever thanks to social media?
It is a bit of a paradox, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, social media can, like, provide a sense of connection, but for a lot of people, it actually increases feelings of isolation.
Really?
Yeah. You start comparing yourself to others, experiencing FOMO,
Yeah, FOMO.
ultimately, like, engaging less in face-to-face interaction. And as the source points out, this isn't just about the digital world. Feeling lonely and isolated can happen even when you're surrounded by people,
Oh, wow.
especially if you've experienced, trauma.
Trauma. Now, that's a heavy but incredibly important topic.
Absolutely.
Our source brings up the ACE study, which looked into the long-term effects of adverse childhood experiences.
Right. The ACB study.
And the findings are, to be honest, pretty jarring.
Yeah. Very impactful study.
Get this, 2/3 of the people in the ACE study reported at least one traumatic experience during childhood. And here's the kicker. The more trauma you experience, the greater your risk for serious health problems later in life. We're talking heart disease, cancer, depression, the whole gamut. It's like a ticking time bomb.
The reasons behind that are, well, fascinating and frankly a little alarming.
Yeah?
Trauma actually changes how our brains and bodies function.
Really?
Yeah, it keeps us in this constant state of fight or flight, constantly flooding our systems with stress hormones.
Oh, wow.
And this chronic stress just takes a serious toll on our health over time.
So it's not just about the event itself.
Yeah.
It's the ripple effects.
Exactly. And to clarify, trauma isn't limited to childhood.
Yeah.
It can be any event that, like, overwhelms your ability to cope.
Right.
A serious accident, natural disaster, even the loss of a loved one. It's about the impact, not necessarily the specific event.
That's a good point. Makes you think, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Have you ever considered how past experiences might be affecting your health right now? It's worth reflecting on.
Absolutely.
Now, before we go too far down that road,
Okay.
let's switch gears a bit. The source also talks about technology's impact on kids specifically.
Mm-hmm.
And there's one line that really resonated with me.
What is it?
Children need laps more than apps.
Mm-hmm.
What are your thoughts on that? Are tablets suddenly the enemy?
It's not about, demonizing tablets or technology.
Yeah.
It's about recognizing what's crucial for healthy development, especially in those early years.
So what are we talking about here? What are kids missing out on when screen time dominates?
Well, face-to-face interaction, playtime, exploring their environment. These real-world experiences, that's like the building blocks of brain development.
Yeah.
When kids are glued to screens, they miss out on those vital opportunities to learn and grow in like fundamental ways.
That makes sense. But let's be realistic. The source acknowledges how captivating tablets can be for toddlers.
No, yeah.
Flashing lights, sounds, instant gratification. I mean, have you ever seen a kid mesmerized by an iPad?
Oh, absolutely. They get sucked in. And that's precisely where the concern is.
Okay.
Our brains are wired to seek out rewards.
Right.
And digital devices deliver those rewards in a much more like intense and immediate way than, real life activities.
Oh, yeah.
It's like a supercharged dopamine hit,
Yeah.
which makes it harder for kids, and let's be honest, adults too, to focus on things that are important, but maybe not as instantly gratifying.
Yeah, like finishing that work project.
Exactly.
Or, having a meaningful conversation.
Right. Those things don't always have those flashing lights and sounds.
Exactly. It all comes down to finding a balance that supports well-being rather than hinders it, both for ourselves and for our kids.
Absolutely.
So how do we achieve that balance?
Right.
Our source offers some practical tips for managing screen time for children and adults.
Okay.
Things like keeping screens out of the bedroom, setting clear time limits, and sticking to them.
Oh, yeah. That's a hard one.
It is. And offering alternative rewards that aren't tied to screen time.
That's a good one.
It all sounds pretty straightforward, but I know it can be tough to implement.
It is. But it's encouraging, right? I mean, we often have more control than we realize.
True.
It starts with awareness, being mindful of how and when we use technology.
Think about it. When are digital devices truly helpful? And when do they start to become a problem?
Mm-hmm.
That's a question worth asking yourself and maybe even having a family discussion about.
I agree.
Technology can be a powerful tool,
Oh, yeah.
but like any tool, it needs to be used responsibly and intentionally. Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here in this first part.
We have.
Loneliness, the lasting impact of trauma, navigating screen time in, this tech-saturated world.
It's a lot.
It's definitely a lot to process.
Yeah.
But before we move on to part 2 of this deep dive,
Okay.
is there one key takeaway you'd want our listener to walk away with so far?
I think the biggest takeaway is the interconnectedness of it all. Our mental and social health are deeply intertwined, not separate things.
Right.
What impacts one inevitably affects the other.
That's a really great point, and something to keep in mind as we continue this conversation.
Absolutely.